Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ignite Spark Session 8 with host Rob Marin. We're just starting off here. Nothing's been said so far, and Rob's going to begin hosting us through Spark Session 8.
Okay, before we get into it, we're going to talk about lead gen and making listings today, listing appointments. But does anybody have any questions? I mean, you guys have been, a lot of you have been attending these for a little while now, or just questions in general. That's really open-ended, but go for it. Okay. What do you guys see right now? Just a few things. What are you guys seeing areas that you're going to be strong on, or areas that you may want to focus on in real estate?
I have a lot. I mean, I just turned 31. So a lot of my friends are kind of getting to that stage where they're like first time home buyers. So I feel like that's something that I can focus on, like FHA loans, and kind of like explaining to my friends that like not impossible to get a house at a young age. And I think a lot of people don't know about the options that are out there. So I think that's where I would start focusing. That's where I see a lot of opportunity for myself.
That's great. That's great.
By the way, yeah. I was mentioning to somebody earlier too that you could do like first-time home buyer seminars on a Zoom call, and that's a great way of meeting people right now out there, especially since so much stuff is being done through Zoom right now.
And it's really easy to think when you're first starting in real estate, oh, people can Google all this stuff. But how many times have you Googled something and it's like, oh my God, there's pages of information, and it's like, well, are they trying to be honest, or are they trying to sell me something? Or, you find out and it's like, oh, hey, great, this person, they're in Hollywood. They're got to be close. Maybe I'll talk to them and blah, blah, blah. And you start to look at their info and then you realize, oh, it's Hollywood, Florida, and it's like, oh crap, none of that's relevant to me. So the idea of you doing something like that is a great idea, because people do want to connect with somebody local, and they do want to talk to like somebody who's a one source resource where you can help them walk them through all this stuff. Because, it's sometimes, I know when I first started, sometimes I thought, oh, it's just really easy for me to think like, oh, these people, they can look this stuff up on their own. But then I even started looking stuff up on my own, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm lost. So when you're talking to people, whether you're going on a listing appointment, whether you're presenting a presentation, you're their best shot. You are their best hope they have. They need you, okay? Because you may compare yourself to everybody, and don't do that. I'm saying don't do that. But in this industry, it's easy to do. And it's easy to, I at least did that. I dismissed myself. But I ended up realizing every single person I helped. And you're in that same spot. Every single person you talk to, they're so much better off working with you than trying to go this alone. So keep that in mind. Doing first-time home buyer seminars is great. I have some people that I'm working with, Andy, our in-house home lender, and they're first-time home buyers, and they've come up and they've been either referrals or contacts, and they've gotten a hold of me and they've said, we don't know what to do. Where do we start? What do I need to do? There's a friend of mine who he's doing a virtual Pride for this weekend, and we've been friends for a few years now. And he just started texting me out of the blue, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, oh my God, rent's out of control. Can you give me some advice on how I can buy someplace? Because I'm tired of paying rent. I just want to buy something. How much do I need down? What can I do? So I just started sending him a few things. So people want that information, and you're their best chance at that. Whenever I start these, I always also talk about, some of you will love me and some of you will hate me, because we all have different personality types, and it's the DISC, and you can take the DISC test. And I bring this up all the time because I've learned to adjust when I speak to people based on that. I use two famous examples. My first listing I ever had, she's a high D. When I would call her up and give her like a rundown, I would literally be on the phone with her 30 seconds and that was it. Hey Rob, how did open house go? Things went great. I had 20 people coming through today. 12 said that they really liked the place and were interested. 2 said they were coming back tomorrow with their agents. Okay, are you having an open house tomorrow? Yep, same time. Okay, bye. Boom, we were done. If I were to say anything more, she'd be like, you're wasting my time. But then my second listing, the one where I almost got caught peeing, oh shit, that got recorded. But they went ahead and when I would call up and talk to him about open house, he was a high I. Everything had to be feely. So like, well, what did people think about the place? Did they like the colors? Did they think the lighting was okay? Did they think that it was, you know, laid out well? What did they seem to like it? Do you think they'll come back? So he was a 25-minute conversation every single time because he needed to feel that way. Oh, you're coming back tomorrow? Okay, do you want me to do anything? Do you want me to have coffee ready for you? You know, it was like that sort of thing. And I knew with him, I couldn't cut him off short. Otherwise, he thinks I'm shortchanging him. So as we're going through all of this material and as I'm presenting it, I tend to be a high I and kind of an S, and I make myself a D at times, but that's me, okay? So if you fit in that parameter, oh, you are super happy. But if you don't fit in that parameter, then you have to adjust. But understand that when it comes to relationships, when it comes to business, when it comes to everything, you have to do that. Otherwise, you're gonna have a lot of friction. Some people are not gonna wanna connect with you. They don't wanna work with you. And that's the thing that you need to kind of lead on that. So that's my little spiel, okay? Today, we're gonna focus on lead generating for buyers and sellers, you know, like I mentioned. And we're gonna go from having a contact, well, actually going from a lead to a contact to somebody that is now in your sphere, and then somebody you can make a listing appointment with, or, you know, it may be a buying appointment, but today we're focused on listing appointments. And a lead can be, and the reason why I say it like this, when you have a lead can be very cold. You know, I've done Facebook ads with some of my listings and I'll get a response. That's a cold lead. You know, I mean, it's somebody who really doesn't know me. They're semi-warm. They're not totally cold. Like I'm not, you know, calling them out of the blue. They've raised their hand at least, but they don't know who I am and there's no connection. So because of that, it's like, okay, they're not really even a contact yet. They become a contact once I get a hold of them and we start conversing back and forth. But at that point, well, now they're a contact because now we've conversed back and forth, but do they start to become somebody that is going to be in my sphere? Somebody that when they get ready to do something, they're going to want to work with me. That takes sometimes some nurture. Now, some people, you know, are going to jump those front two things and go right into your sphere. Some of them go, because I have referrals, and I'll talk about that in a bit, but sometimes you'll get a referral and they'll jump all of that into, Rob, I have a friend that needs to sell their place. Can you get a hold of them? So boom, you've gone right into, hey, let's set up a listing appointment and pre-qualify you and go from there. So understand as we're going through this, we're kind of doing the big picture, but your business, you're going to adjust all of this depending on it. Don't think that everything is so hard and fast. When they put all this information together, they have to do it with a broad blanket. And Michael, like you were talking about, you may be focused on first-time home buyers. For you, then some of this, you may start to curtail it a little bit because you're going to be focused on that 30-year, you know, the people in their 30s, somewhere in that age range. You may be focused on that. You know, when you do a listing, that could be a different thing. But when you're looking at buyers, that's your target sort of thing. I'm certified in real estate with seniors. So for me, I tend to really stay updated on everything having to do with seniors in real estate and even senior issues. So some of it goes beyond that. I've gone to seminars for Alzheimer's. So I kind of know what's going on with the latest research on dementia, Alzheimer's, things that they can do, and so forth. If you're working with a specific target group, that's some of the things that make you a resource that people really look at you and go, oh, he really knows his stuff. She really knows what's going on in that first-time home buyer market, or she really knows what's going on as far as I need to upgrade. We've already had our starter home, but now we need to get into a bigger home. How do I make that happen? And she's the one to go to. So let's see. I don't know. Your pages are different than mine. So we're going to go to, okay, understanding motivation. Where are we at? Yay. Okay. Understanding, yeah, when they do this, okay. By the way, I was told that late last night, I'm doing this today. So I reviewed this all at midnight last night. So yeah, there's that too. Understanding motivation. When you understand somebody's motivation, you understand, okay, what are they needing to do? And this is when you ask questions and don't make assumptions. And sometimes you have to dig a little bit. So they say, oh, we want to list our home. Okay. Why do you want to list your home? Well, we need to move. Okay. Then you start to ask, and that's going to come up a little bit later, but you're going to start to ask certain questions to qualify all that. The more you get to know your client, then the more you get to know how you need to strategize. Is it going to be long-term or is it going to be short-term? And that's how you're going to go ahead and you're going to kind of focus on this. This is probably in your book. They have what's called the Do Not Call Registry. And I'll just say that disclaimer. Everything they have to do, they have to talk about it. The Do Not Call Registry, and let me explain this a little bit. As you guys know, they passed years ago the idea that if you're on the Do Not Call Registry, nobody's supposed to call you. Yes. Now, the thing with that is some people are going to be really pissed off when you do call them because they're like, I told somebody not to call me. Now, let me break it down how this works. So if there's a calling database, and Ed has a calling database, he owns a company that distributes this stuff, and he sells that database to Michael, and then he goes ahead and sells it to Jennifer, and then he goes ahead and sells it to Anna. Well, Anna calls somebody off of that database, and they're like, don't ever call me again. Take me off your list. Okay, Anna now deletes it off of her database, but just even from that distribution, it's still on 2 other databases, and they may be getting phone calls from 2 other people. So now they're really pissed off because they told them to take me off the list. And people sometimes think that it's one big global list that everybody taps into, and it's not all these lists that are distributed. So understand that even when you check the database, and you may be doing this, if people seem really frustrated because you're contacting them, that could be why. Just saying. Another thing is that if you're going after what's called FSBOs, for sale by owners, which in California we don't actually see a lot of, or expireds, which sometimes we do see a lot of, as soon as the expired lists come out, everybody and their brother is trying to contact them. So a lot of times these people are bombarded with phone calls, and you could be the nicest person on the planet. Snow White may be taking you out to lunch, but they don't care. They have just been bombarded by phone calls, and they don't want to talk to anybody else. So understand that that's all wrapped up into if you're cold calling someone. Now, I said my disclaimer, if, like I said, you do a Facebook ad and they answered the ad, okay, you can call them, because even though you don't know them, they raised their hand, so you can call them. And anything warmer than that, so anything that could be like, you already know them, you've had a contact with them, they were referred to you, anything like that, yeah, don't worry about that. It's just the people you absolutely had no contact with before, that's when you need to pay attention to this. Okay, so next slide, please. Find seller leads. Qualify and convert seller leads. Okay, great. These are the areas that you're gonna actually find your seller leads in. First is gonna be your database. Next one can be open houses. The next one can be your daily, just churning it out. When you're doing your lead generation, it could be that sort of thing. And another one can be referrals. Now, let me talk about some of that. Your database, think of your database like a garden. And the better you take care of your garden, the better it's going to look. At the same time, your database can be flooded. You could have 2,000 people in your database, but if they're all weeds, guess what? They're all weeds. You haven't really, you haven't really got to know them better. They are not really part of your sphere of influence, and you need to work that more. It'd be much better for you to have a database of, let's say, 400 people that are high quality contacts than 2,000 people that, well, you just have these people in your database. For me personally, when I first imported all of my contacts from my Apple iPhone into my database, I had 1,600 contacts in there. And yeah, at one point I had made contacts with all these people, but I went through that and I deleted 400 of them because those people, I'm like, I don't even know who they are, or those people don't exist anymore, or for whatever reason, they needed to go. And I started weaning it down. The more I started working too and calling people and contacting them, and some people basically like, I don't want to hear from you again, or I'm not interested or whatever. I deleted them because then I can focus on the ones that I really want to focus on in my database. When it comes to right now finding seller leads at open houses, as you guys know, we're all in COVID, so that's a little bit of a unique thing. But when you have a buyer come in, how you work that is you can say, oh, I see you're interested. Where do you guys currently live? This is when you're asking questions and get to know them more. Okay. Do you guys, oh, you guys own a home? Or they could be renting. But if they own a home, it'd be like, oh, okay, so you guys own a home. Are you thinking of selling that place in order to buy another place? Oh, okay. And if they don't have an agent, boom, now you can become their listing agent. Or as they're talking to them, like, wow, you guys must be really working, you know, and working these open houses a lot and going to see a lot of homes out there. You know, have you seen anything? Do you know anybody else who's been thinking about selling or buying a home? You can even use that because it just allows you that opportunity to bridge that gap. The one that I tend to work off more is referrals, and referrals is a little bit of a unique beast where I mentioned to you, I'm senior certified, and I keep in touch with a lot of the senior communities. And one of them locally, he's given me two, I'm not going to call them leads. I mean, they're just listings, period, done and done. One, the offer is out and we just need to sign the things and I'm double ending it. And the other one is a really nice condo in Bixby Knolls. And then he told me just the other day, hey, I've got somebody coming up probably in a week or two that I might have for you. So that's different because that's the sort of thing when we talk about how they go from, you know, a contact to sphere of influence, I'm jumping all the way over into the other gap and like, boom, they're going to become an instant listing. However, my communication is a little bit on steroids. Not only am I communicating with the people that are going to be listing their place with me and I'm really working with them, I keep him in the loop as well. So I keep him like once or twice a week at a minimum. I will let him know, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what's going on, just so you know, just so you know. Because when somebody gives you a referral, they've basically kind of put their own credibility on it. Like, hey, I know who Michael is, and he's a really good guy. Why don't you work with him? So they're putting themselves out there a little bit because what if, and I know, Michael, you'll do a great job, but we're just saying theoretically, what if something goes awry and they don't, the person that got referred doesn't feel that way? Well, then it's a reflection on the person who referred them. So you want to be really appreciative of those people who did the referral because they're putting themselves out there. And what I've done recently, my insurance agent, she referred her daughter, which I was overwhelmed that she would do that. So I sent her a thank you card with a Starbucks card in it, you know, and just said, hey, you know, really appreciate this, blah, blah, blah. And I've just kind of kept her updated too a little bit, you know, hey, you know, and that kind of thing. But that's how you can find a lot of your seller leads. Okay, next slide. Next slide. When it comes, okay, when you're talking to people, connecting questions. Whoa, dude, you're an overachiever. You skip.
This
Yay, okay. This is when you want to qualify and convert seller leads. When you're talking about this, when you're talking, there's a list of things I'm going to go through. There's 4 different things. And again, this is assuming you're starting from almost ground zero. But if this is somebody, let's say you have an Aunt Hortense and she's always loved you and she's ready to sell her home and move to Florida, Well, and she calls you up and saying, oh, I want you to sell my home. You probably can pull back on asking her some of these things because you already know them. You already have that relationship. So when I'm starting to talk about this, this is when the idea you're starting from ground zero, but you're going to have to be a good guide on when you're going to have to maybe edit this a little bit and know when to go in. Because at the same time, what if you started asking Aunt Hortense questions that you would ask a stranger? Oh, so how long have you lived in this home? Honey, you were raised in this home. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, so, you know, what are you thinking of doing? I've told you for years, I'm moving to Florida with your Aunt Bertha. We're gonna go ahead and live together. You know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, you kind of know that you're gonna jump that when it comes to somebody you know really well. But when you do talk to somebody who might be a seller lead, you wanna connect with them. You want to ask them questions that also make them feel appreciated. You also want to make it fun. Nobody wants to talk to a robot, or nobody wants to talk to somebody who just is really stiff or cold. And it can be so nerve-wracking. I get it. I've been out on those appointments. And the best way is just a little bit of humor. You know, have a little bit of fun. You know, and even if it's a sort of thing, let's say you're fortunate enough where you're talking to this person at their home, you know, and you know, you're saying, oh, so how long what's one of the funnier things that's ever happened in your home? Okay, boom, easy question, right? But now they're talking to you about one of their fondest memories in the home, something that's really funny, and now you're having that moment together and you're connecting. You're asking those sort of questions. Once you're doing that connecting, and it's easy to flow, you can go into, okay, so tell me, this is number 2, how ready are they? You know, when they're ready to move. Okay, great. When are you actually thinking of doing this? When is a good time? Well, and there could be a plethora of answers. It could be, well, we're not really sure yet, or they could be very specific. Some of the scripts out there, which are great, some of the scripts out there will say, oh, we think we're going to move in 2 months because our kids are going to school. That's a wonderful answer, and it's easy to work with. But sometimes you'll get people that'll say, you know what, we're pretty flexible. It's just when we find, you know, the right time for us, I think that's when we're going to move. Okay, that's really vague, and that's a little bit more difficult to nail and work on that. So that's when you're going to have to kind of, you know, figure out how ready are they? Or they may think they're totally ready, and then they're hoarders. And so, you know, you find out, you're like, oh, yeah, it's going to take you a while to clean out that house. You've lived there for 50 years, and there is stuff all over the place. Well, that's more of a challenge than somebody who's, you know, very sparse living kind of person, and it's easy for them to move. So you kind of find out how ready they are. And if you don't think, if they think they're more ready than what they are, that's when you can kind of ask questions to lead them. It's always great to ask questions. Instead of telling people, like, let's say, you know, oh, well, we've lived here for 50 years. Oh, okay. You know, 50 years in one home. I know a lot of my family members who've done that. They've accumulated a lot of things. Is that going to be a challenge? Have you been able to accumulate a lot of things over the years? You know, and then, well, yeah, actually, we do have a lot of family furniture that was inherited and antiques and so on. Okay. Well, you know, understand when we start this process, I'd be more than willing to help, but we're going to have to figure out what you're going to want to take with you, maybe what you're going to want to sell. Get them in that mindset, because a lot of people too, especially if you have some sellers that have never sold in years, they don't realize the undertaking it's going to be. Then what you're also going to want to do is, number 3, you pre-qualify them to find out if they are able and ready to do business. You kind of ask questions like, okay, you know, where are you sitting? How are things looking on the home? Do you know where you want to go? Do you know, once you sell the home, how soon do you need to move? Is your whole family moving together? Is it going to be staggered? Is it the sort of thing where you need, if we were able to sell the house quickly, is that going to be a problem, or is that going to be a solution? You find out all those things that are they ready to pull the trigger right then? Or are they ready to pull the trigger in a little while? And then you can kind of take these notes and figure out. And then once you kind of get all this down, then you know, okay, I can do the listing presentation. Now, if somebody says, well, you know what, we know we're not going to be ready to move because our kid graduates in, our kid graduates next year. And then that's when we know we're going to be able to move. As soon as they graduate, boom, we're out of here. Oh, okay, that's a year from now. So you're not going to really do a listing presentation right now. You're going to wait on that. But you're going to keep in contact and you're going to keep on asking some of these questions, pre-qualifying them, just getting that all that information for that year. Sometimes real estate, and trust me, I know this one, sometimes real estate, you're going to be asking all of this and it's going to be a process. You may talk to this person and then it's going to be months or a year later that you actually sell their home. That first listing I mentioned, when I was first contacted by them, they contacted me in May. We didn't sell that home until February because there was a number of issues that came up with her mother. And that's okay. That's the way things go, okay? Okay, next page. Now, Mr. Skip Ahead. Okay, connecting questions. You guys have always heard like the what, who, when, where, how, and why. So we're gonna kind of go over these and I'm gonna ask somebody to read the first one and just go across and I'm gonna say it's who, and then you guys tell me the other two things, the questions and all that. Somebody raise your hand. I gotta put everybody up. Do I see it? Okay, Anna, you go.
So I'm sorry, I'm just reading across, right? So
yeah, the
okay.
First one.
Okay, get details to add to your database. So you would ask, if you would, please tell me a little bit about your family, job, life, etc.
Great, thank you. And that's telling them who they are, you know, what they're, you know, there are things about them, and you start to take these notes. The more details you can add to your database, the better. You know, you find out, oh, they're a dog owner, they're a cat owner, you know, oh, bingo, you can write that kind of stuff in. The information, like you find out sometimes birthdays. Do you mind if I tag you on Facebook? Facebook gives you people a lot of details about their lives. Take those details and put it into your database. It makes a big difference. I have about a third of all my contacts in Facebook. They have their birthdays right on there. So it's so easy to do because bingo, they put their birthdays on there. Now I can put it in my database. Now I can send them birthday cards. So it allows you to do that. Okay, next one, going across.
Sorry.
Amal, go ahead.
Mute myself first. Okay. Access their wants, assess their wants, needs, and plans. What are you looking for? What do you want to do? Great.
Those are the kind of things that you're asking. You know, if they're a first-time home buyer, then they may be looking just for a starter home. But what if they've already bought their starter home and they're wanting to list this home now that they're in? Well, what are you looking for? We're looking for a bigger home. You know, we're looking for a home with yard. We're looking for a home that's closer to my job. All of those kind of things. What are you wanting to do? What things are you wanting to do with the home? What things are you wanting to do with your life that getting another home is going to help you with? Those are the things that you're asking questions, and then you're able to take notes, and it can better narrow it in. And sometimes it seems like, well, you know, okay, but it really helps because I had somebody just this last week. She told me, you know what, I'm looking for a home in Whittier. I want something that's somewhere around, I think it was like up to $600,000 and at least 3 bedrooms. Okay, so I sent her a list of homes like that. All of a sudden, I got back to me, okay, you know what? I don't want any condos and I want at least 1,200 square feet. And so I was like, thank you. Now I asked her this all beforehand and she didn't tell me. just FYI. But now she's telling me, so now I'm narrowing down and I'm finding out more of what she's looking for. What do you really want in the home that you want to purchase? And then that'll help me narrow that down. And sometimes it can take a while when you're, helping somebody with that, but it can also let you know that some people, we talked about this on the 9 a.m. call. Sometimes you'll have clients that what they want and reality are two different things. So some of this process is education too. Whether you're helping somebody buy or helping somebody sell, you're also educating them. And sometimes the education is not telling them, you're just sending them the information and they can review it themselves and realize, oh, okay, maybe I can't buy a condo in West Hollywood for $300,000 like I thought I could. Yeah, no kidding. Okay, next one. Eric, go.
Pinpoint the location. Where would you like to buy? Where is your home located?
Bingo. The location's a big thing, and you'll end up with sometimes people, when they're telling you why, they'll also tell you, okay, this is where. Some of the stuff all coincides, as you can see. But this helps you to understand this is going to be the target area. Now, I just mentioned Whittier. Sometimes when I talk to some of my clients, they're fine with anybody in the Whittier area. So when I do the searches, I'll bring in some of the other cities along with that too. Other times you'll have some people say, nope, that's not what I'm looking for. Sometimes I want Hancock Park. Okay, then that's all you're going to be looking for is in Hancock Park. I'm looking just in West Hollywood. Or you'll even go in a map and they're like, I don't want West Hollywood. I want all around Cedars-Sinai. That's where I work and I want that area. Well, when you do that, you're going to be hitting West Hollywood, you're going to be hitting LA, and you're going to be hitting Beverly Hills. And so you're going to end up just mapping that out and then sending them a search on things that are available in that area. But when you find out they're where, it really helps you to pinpoint that sort of thing. And sometimes, again, it's that education where they're like, yeah, I would love to buy a condo right next to Cedars-Sinai for $300,000. Yeah, you and everybody else. But you don't say it like that to them. What you do is you're like, you know what? I haven't found anything in that area for that price. This is what I have found. And you can educate them in that manner. And then sometimes either they're going to bring their price point up or you're going to help them to go ahead and find somewhere else. Okay, next one.
Determine their motivation. Why are you moving?
Okay, big one there. Some of the stuff that we just covered will be the why, but then some of the other whys aren't going to be in that. Oh, we're expecting a baby. That's a big thing. We need extra space. We need extra room. Or our kids just graduated. We don't need this big house. So we're selling it so we can get into a smaller home, something that's more manageable for us. There's a lot of life things that happen that you don't know. For me, I mentioned I get some of these referrals. My life thing is that these people, they're aging to a point where they need care and they need to go into a senior community. And like both of these last two referrals, they're both memory challenged. So they're going into the memory care unit. Well, for them, that is their why. It's not that their house didn't meet their needs, but they just cannot live on their own anymore. And there's no kids involved. So for them, it's time for them, the place needs to be sold to put the money in an account. So whoever's facilitating that can also pay for their stay in the senior community. That's their why. Does that make sense? Thank you. Yeah, nod your heads. Help me here. Okay, next one. Jennifer, go. I can't hear.
Jennifer, you got to unmute. Jennifer, you can hold down the space bar while you're talking. It'll unmute you.
I got you, Jennifer. Get a feeling for their timeline. When would you like to do this? You're muted, Rob.
I am muted, and I muted me because the mailman came and the dogs were not happy. They have to protect the house, you know, and every time they bark, for some reason, the mailman leaves. And so it just affirms them more. But when would they like to do this? That's part of their timeline. A lot of the stuff, you know, a lot of stuff we've already asked, that can be part of their timeline, you know, what's in there. A lot of their whys, a lot of that kind of stuff. But when you ask them, when would you like to do this? Sometimes it nails it down even a little bit more. You know, is this something urgent? Is it not urgent? Is it something you're thinking about in the long, you know, like 3 to 4 months from now? Or, hey, this changed, we need to do this now. Some of these referrals I get from the senior places, it's a mixed bag. The one that we just did the offer, he originally started talking to me about this whole thing at the very end of February is when he talked to me. He goes, hey, I have somebody that's going to be moving into the place and they need to sell their home. But there's been a whole process involved in that. And so the timeline was much, much longer. The other one that I'm getting a hold of the nephew, it's a situation where they said, hey, on Sunday, they already moved all their stuff out. They're ready to pull the trigger. They want to get this place sold ASAP. So for them, it's like boom, 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 boom. Things are going to move fast. So now that you know, when you know that, you know also how to follow up. You know, the person that things need to move fast, if you're contacting them every day, that's okay because boom, they need to move fast. If somebody tells you, well, you know what, we're going to probably move in 3 months is when we're going to actually put it on the market. And that's when we'd be ready. Okay, great. If you're calling them every single day, now you're annoying them. But if you contact them once or twice a week, and that contact can even just be an email. Hey, I just want to send you some of the latest stats of what's going on in the area. Doesn't mean you're always having a call, but you're always keeping in contact and you're always being specific about it. That's good because then that's still like, okay, you're nurturing that lead, or you're actually nurturing somebody in your sphere that's going to become a listing. Okay, and last one, down at the bottom. Who wants to do the last one? Eric, thank you.
Assess their expectations. How do you plan to do this?
Okay, and then that's when you kind of assess a lot of this, but sometimes people, they don't know. So when you ask them even this question, like, okay, well, how are you planning to sell your place? You know, or, well, we want to get top dollar and you're walking in and there's huge cracks in the ceiling. Okay, and we need to sell it in 3 weeks. Okay, well, we have some challenges there. How are we planning to do this? How are we looking at making a timeline for this? You're asking, you know, those sort of questions because you know, people will have sometimes in their mind, well, the neighbors down the street, they have almost the same exact home as us, and their home sold for $700,000. So our home should sell for $700,000. Well, first you got to fix that big old shielding crack, okay? So that's the kind of thing where, you know, you have to like, okay, well, that's great. We can go ahead and we can explore that. But if we want to get that kind of top dollar, we need to get your house in that order. How are we going to plan to do this? And and a lot of times if they don't have an answer, then that's when your solution. It's better to lead with a question too than to tell them. You know, I mean, you may be thinking, oh, we got to do this, we got to do this, but ask with the question, well, how are we planning to work on this together? What have been your thoughts on this process? How are you thinking of getting there? And if they have some great ideas, great. You know, they may have already pulled the trigger. Well, we already have somebody coming. Oh, okay, good. Or, well, we're not sure. That's the reason why we're talking to you. Okay, well, let me see if I can help you on that. I have some, and then you start to go into that conversation. What do you think are some other questions that you guys could ask that would help in this process? Throw some out. Let's have a kumbaya moment.
Can you ask them about, like, you know, well, can you make your house available for open houses every weekend? What's your availability in terms of getting people in here to see it?
Exactly. That's a great one. That's a really good one. Because even before COVID, you'd have people that were difficult. Now with COVID, it can really be a challenge. And so if somebody's wanting to sell their home, that's a really good question, because if the home, like right now I have a listing that's vacant, so it's a luxury. I mean, it's a luxury right now when I have agents saying, hey, can I show your home tomorrow at 12:30 p.m.? Sure, go ahead and send me the P, the super's on the front. Done. I don't have to worry about it. But if there's, you know, people there, like I'm supposed to be showing a home to one of my buyers in LA, and it's owner occupied. So we're having to really coordinate that. And that's where I can tell when I've talked to this agent, they haven't had a great conversation about that. And that's a great question, Anna, because that's something, if you ask that ahead of time, then you can also set their expectation. Well, we really don't like people coming through our house. We thought you could do everything virtually. We thought you could do it through photos and Matterport and that sort of thing. Okay, I totally understand that, Mr. Seller. Now, let me explain. And we can totally do that. I'm more than willing to do that. Wait, the dog's, we are more than willing to do that. However, if, hey, hold on, I'm recording. We're more than willing to do that. Hang on. Get over here. Get over here. Okay. Kids. I'm more than willing to do that. However, that will create a little bit of a challenge showing your home to people. So it may be a little bit longer timeline in selling your home. Or we may not get as many offers because we won't get as much exposure. And that's okay, but I just want to prepare you for that if we happen to run into that. And you are setting that expectation then in that sort of process where then it's their choice. It really helps when you always make it their choice on going down that path. I mean, let's face it, for all of us, if we could get 5 listings a day and sell them all within a week and it was all turnkey, yeah, life would be grand, wouldn't it? But it's not that way. And we're working with people's lives and we're working with things and everybody's in a different place. Great. But that's when you let them know, look, it's your choice. If you want to do that, I'm great with that. You know, just like we talked earlier this morning on the 9 a.m. call about price reductions. What if somebody wants to list a home way too high? And I had a client in Downey that did that. They wanted 1.3 for the home and the home was worth 1.2 at the time. And so, and he had his heels dug in. So I said, okay, no problem. Let's do this. I think that's going to be overpriced, but I totally understand that you want to do it at 1.3 and you're solid on that. In 2 weeks, let's revisit the price. If nobody has really showed any interest, we don't have any offers, you know, we don't have a lot of people looking at the home because of it, then let's revisit that and readjust the price. And he was like, okay, that's fair. I let it be his choice. You know, I set the expectation, look, I'm fine with that. If you want to go in high, we're going to really narrow our chances on getting an offer. And if you're so determined to do that, that's okay. If you're so determined that, or you don't want people in your home traipsing through a lot, I totally get that. It will narrow, though, our opportunities. And if that's the case, that's fine. I just want you to be aware of that. So then you're setting that expectation and you're not the bad guy. Does that make sense? Okay. If you notice all of these kind of questions, by the time you're done asking these questions, you've really gotten to know them. I mean, you not only understand the whole big picture for this whole transition for them, you know, we're talking about sellers, but buyers too, this applies to them. But you've also gotten to know them in a much more personal way. Take notes on all of this stuff. You're not going to remember it. I tried that the first, you know, few times where I had these sheets. People would sign in on these sheets and be like, oh, da, da, da. And I'm like, oh my, they were a lovely family. They had 2 kids, blah, 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 blah. And then 2 weeks later, I'm looking at that same sheet going, oh my God, I don't remember who these people were. Or I would mix them up. I'd be like, was this family or was that family? That family had a dog. This family only had 1 kid. I can't remember. Take notes, okay? Take notes. So, FYI. Next slide, please. Okay. this is when you're narrowing down, you're putting your seller leads into categories. You talk about sellers. First one is going to be able to do business within 2 weeks. And I told you, like, I've gotten a few referrals that way. The one that's in Bixby Knolls, I've contacted that person, except for Father's Day, because I'm like, some people don't want to be contacted, so I get it. But every single day I've contacted this person. And I was told by the guy referring it to me that he works for Warner Brothers Studios, so he's always kind of crazy busy. Not a problem. Then he'll be used to me calling him and texting him nonstop, because people in that industry are also used to that. They're ready to go right then. Then the next set is ready in like around 15 to 60 days. Then you want to go ahead and put them into your database, but for them, like I said, you want to contact them at least twice a week, and some of that, if you want to contact them a little bit more, make it easy. 1 phone call a week, 1 text a week, 1 email a week. Bingo, 3 times you've kept in touch with that person, and you're just following up. And it always helps sometimes when you do that, is there anything I can help you with? Are there any questions that I can answer? Are there any resources I can help you with? I just want to make sure this is an easy process for you. All of that kind of stuff combined really helps them to put at ease, like, yeah, you're my go-to person for this. And then the last one is 61 days or more. And this is when you put them in your database. Now, they're saying to call monthly. Write a note on that. Call monthly, but make sure like they're getting emails from you. They're getting other information, maybe a text. If they get monthly, just 1 phone call from you, that's okay. But if they've gotten, maybe if you do a newsletter email, great. But even if it's a personal one, and even if it's just don't make your emails where they always have to be real estate related. Let me also say that too. Oh my God, here's a crazy picture of my cat, and send it to them. I just thought I'd send it to you. I was thinking of you today. That's all you have to do. Remember, top of mind, top of mind. So you send that to them, they remember you. It can be fun stuff. One thing I hate about the approach for some people in real estate is they make it so damn serious. And it's like, these are people. You can have fun with people. How many times, why do you think kitty videos on YouTube are so damn popular? Because it's like, oh my God, look at that. That's so funny. People want to be entertained. People like to have things that break up their day. Send them a picture of your cat. Send them a picture of like, hey, you know what? I was at an open house and this is the weirdest sink I ever saw. Weird, crazy things like that. Who cares? Whatever you think might be appropriate, send it to them, okay? Because you're keeping in contact with them. Some of you guys who may get my newsletters, you'll notice I start off my newsletter every time with my mommy, and I even put in there, my mommy. I can't tell you how many times I have people reply back to me. I love that. I love that. All it is something personal. I have one of the photos I got a lot of feedback on is when I think I was 4 years old. I'm in a terry cloth jacket and a swim trunks, and I'm next to a pool, and my mom is out there sunbathing. It's just one of those, 1960s photos. But it's that kind of thing where it's like, it was just kind of cute. Had nothing to do with real estate at all. But I got people, saying, oh my God, that was great. Top of mind. That's what you're doing. So somebody who's in your database and they're going to be like 2 months or longer, when you're keeping in touch, yeah, you can send them market updates. Yeah, you can send them stuff, but you can also send them just cute, fun things too. Okay. So, guys, shoot me out like one way you guys think you can keep in touch with somebody. I'm giving you a lot of my ideas. Tell me something about yours.
I'll go. I just try to keep things relevant to like our personal relationship with the people who I'm trying to stay in contact with. Like there's one person who we randomly DM each other on Instagram, various things. There's one person who I'm always texting with. There's another person who it's email. It's just, I try to just keep it relevant to whatever situation we're already in, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that's great. You're personalizing it. I mean, not every relationship is going to be the same. So
they're all very different. Very.
Exactly, exactly. You know, I mean, I always joke around about my dogs, but people who are not dog owners, I kind of don't push the dogs on them because, well, they're not dog owners. So, you know, they don't get it. I shouldn't say they don't get it. It's just, you know, they may not relate. Now, some people who aren't dog owners, they still love my dogs. I'm like, okay, great. But that's not always the thing we talk about. You know, sometimes there's other things we talk about. I told you guys that I used to be a computer geek, like still kind of am, but before I was a realtor, that's what I did for a living. So I have some people that they're like, oh my God, did you hear about the new MacBooks? You know, they're going to have blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I did. That's what we talk about. You know, I don't say, yeah, my dog loves those MacBooks. That's not going to make any difference. They want to know, you know, just about the technology part. So then, you know, that's really appropriate. That's really appropriate. Or I have an antique stove, and there's some people I talk about, and we talk about literally antique stoves, how much we love our antique stoves because, just antique stoves for us are the way to go. But that's really a great way of doing it, making it very relevant to who they are and your relationship with them. You're not making it generic at all. People appreciate that. You appreciate that. How many times have people talk to you and you get something generic and you're like, yeah, big deal. But then you get something and it's personal just to you. And you're like, okay, that really makes a big difference. Okay, we're running, I'm getting a little close. So we're gonna go to convert leads to contacts. Yay. Okay. We talked about finding the lead's motivation, and that's turning that warm lead into a closed client. You know, the idea that you're walking them through all the different steps that it's going to take. And again, some of these steps are going to be, you know, it's not going to always be the perfect, you know, line. Sometimes it's going to jump. Sometimes it's going to be like, oh, this is going well. This is going well. Oops, life happened. We're back to here. Okay, that's just the way life is. And you work with them on that. You want to make sure that if you start off with the lead, again, that means somebody that you really don't have in your sphere of influence. You start that reciprocal relationship, you know, like we were just talking about, and now they become a contact, and now they're going into your sphere of influence. When you get ready to set that appointment, you ask for it. It's really, you know, you just ask, hey, when can we get together and chat? When you do that appointment, by the way, we do use, and I've said this before in some of the other ones I've led, we do use a lot of terminology. One we love to use in real estate is called CMA, Comparative Market Analysis. We use that term, but sometimes I think that term falls short in two ways. And it's not because I'm brilliant. Somebody else told me this. One is you're taking that home that this person has worked on all these years and they put, you know, their own personal touch on it. And you're saying your home is a commodity and it's just like all these other homes. Yeah, that doesn't always go over well with people. Now, high D people, a lot of times they get it. But your high I people, well, you've just pissed them off because now they're like, no, my home is my reflection on who I am. I chose the colors. I chose the plants that are in the front yard, all of that kind of stuff. So instead of saying, well, look, you know, when you get to the appointment, we're gonna, you know, bring out the comparative marketness. We're gonna go over the data. Let's go over the data, and that'll show us what your home is gonna be, you know, what probably we should price it at, because we need to look at the data, and that tells us what other buyers are looking at. And when they look at your home, what is on the market and how much they think that they should be paying for the home. That goes down much easier because then it's not about their personal style. It's not about, oh, your home is just like every other home. It's like, no, we need to look at the data and we need to look at it from the perspective you're wanting a buyer to come in. Well, the buyer is looking at multiple homes. So let's see what the buyer is looking at. And then that lets us know what we should price your home at. That's much easier for somebody to work with, okay? When you do ask for the appointment, you know, you kind of put up front, okay, great. When we're ready to, you know, let's go ahead and set an appointment. And once we do this appointment, I just need to know in my mind, from that appointment, when are we gonna put it on the market? just so I know how to put everything in order. You're also putting in their mind, you're ready to go on this. And you're putting a timeline in their mind. You know, when you say something to them, it makes a difference. Like I've said before too, even when you talk to them about like, well, I'm thinking of selling a home, and don't say, oh, well, if you sell with me, when you sell with me, you're putting into their mind. It's not like, oh, if yes or no, it's when you're going to do it. So when you sell with me, this is what we're going to do. When you do set that appointment, give 2 choices on appointments. Sometimes it's really easy to say, well, you know, what time? Later this week, I'm totally open. Okay, well, it's for a lot of people, that's way too vague. So just narrow it down. Well, you know what? Friday, I'm good at 1 p.m. and at 3 p.m. Oh, Friday, we're booked solid. Okay, great. Saturday, I'm also good at 11 a.m. How does that work for you? So, but you want to give them like 2 time slots initially, and then have them choose from that time slot, because then that makes it easier for everybody to work with. Or they can tell you why something doesn't work. You know, well, Friday, no, I'm sorry, I'm booked solid. Okay, we won't need to do Friday. How about if we do Saturday at 11 a.m.? You're still just kind of giving them a time, and then you're putting them into that. Okay, and one thing I can tell you guys, there's a book called Raving Fans, and I don't know how great of a read it is, but it's a great audiobook, because I listened to the audiobook driving to Vegas for a real estate convention. And the thing I can tell you is I can't remember anything from that whole real estate convention, but I remember the audiobook both going and coming. That was the best part of, you know, what I learned. Shows you how sucky that convention was. But Raving Fans is a great book that talks about where your service and your interaction and everything is so far above what people would expect, that they're not only just like, oh, that's somebody they want to work with, they're fans of yours. They'll give you referrals. So if you notice, you know, the second thing on there, the idea of asking for referrals, that's when it makes it easier. When they become a raving fan, you can go ahead and they become that person that they love to work with you. You know, like I mentioned, the guy who's the executive director for one of the senior communities, I keep him up to date on all this stuff all the time. And then I've even joked around with them, you know, a little bit. I'm like, wow, I go, you know what? I'm going to have to take you out for some martinis. And I said, you know, top shelf. And he kind of, you know, he went back, he goes, no, that's okay. But he goes, I'll take you up on that anyway. And so you kind of also just have that fun little rapport with somebody, because these are referrals, but you're creating that along with it. Yeah, and then, you know, ask them to reciprocate. Okay, next one, Ed. Pre-qualifying sellers. Bingo. Okay, when you're pre-qualifying sellers, we've talked about a lot of this. You understand the seller's motivation. What, who, when, why, you know, not why, although you never know. But you want to find out, you know, why they're doing this, all of that sort of stuff. You put yourself as an expert. Expert doesn't mean you know everything, but you're the resource to find things out. Case in point, when I was selling the first condo, I mentioned to you that I almost got caught peeing in. That one, somebody came in and they said, oh, by the way, what are the reserves on the HOA here? And I said, you know what? I don't have that number offhand, but let me go ahead and I can get that to you. Oh, okay, that would be fine. Well, 2 things. 1, no, I didn't know that number. 2, I didn't know what the hell an HOA was and a reserve. So what I did is I called up my brokerage. My first brokerage was terrible that I was at, but I called them up and I'm like, what is this? And then they kind of explain what reserves are in HOA and that kind of stuff. But what it did is I didn't have to know everything, but I knew I could get them the answers. And so when you're talking to sellers, that's what you want to be. Some of you that are brand new in real estate, there's a little bit of that, like, I don't know everything out there. Nobody knows everything out there. Do you know everything about commercial real estate? No, they're 2 different beasts, okay? But every once in a while, I get asked about a commercial real estate transaction. And I will tell people, you know what? I can get you the answer to that, Let me get back to you on that. So what that does is that creates that rapport, but it also lets them know I'm your resource. That's part of being the expert. You don't have to remember everything. You just know where you can get that information. You want to win the listing. That I'm kind of like, well, yeah. And to me, I'm like, that goes without saying. So we'll skip that. When you talk about allowing the price to sell, the price to sell for the most amount of money in the shortest time frame. That's about marketing. Some agents, all their marketing is price. And what you can do is when you talk to people, you can say price is part of marketing, but it's not all of marketing. So I want to let you know price is going to be important, but I'm going to be on your side and I'm going to be there to go ahead and market your home as well. People want to hear that. People don't want to hear that you're eBaying their home and you're putting it on the market for the cheapest price, and that way it'll sell so quickly. But people want to hear that you're going to be more like a Nordstrom, where you're going to provide quality, you're going to be there to service them, you're going to do a great marketing job, and you'll also get the best price for them in the shortest amount of time. So, and that's what a lot of people want. Now, I have a couple listings where they've kind of said, I want the most money, the time isn't that big of a deal. Okay. For a lot of people, holding on to that home means every month it's costing them money. So even though they say that at the beginning, you let, a month or two go by and it's like, wow, I've already forked out $5 grand on this house every month and we're not getting anything. Well, maybe I'll adjust that price. But, that's where the two go hand in hand. I've also marketed the place like crazy too. That also goes with the very next one, properly setting expectations for the client. Don't ever promise it's going to be a perfect transaction, because a lot of times, most of the time, it's not. The only perfect transaction I ever had was when one of my buyers bought a home in a brand new development. Because when it's a brand new place, literally you get paid your commission and you hand them off to the development because they're selling everything, they're setting everything up. You have nothing to do with that. So super easy. Everybody else, there's always been some sort of hiccup. As easy as I thought everything was going to be, there'd always be some sort of hiccup. But what you can do is you can say, listen, I promise you that I'm going to help try to make this the smoothest transaction as possible. And if there's a hiccup along the way, I'm going to be right there by your side and we're going to work through it. Because then you let them know you're a team together. And you also are setting that expectation that if something does happen, it can, and you're going to help them through that. And that's why you're of value, because not only can you help them with all this stuff, but even if there's a problem, you're going to be a problem solver for them. That make sense?
Hey, Rob, I think Anna had a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Where do you market your listings?
I do the marketing is you put them on the MLS, and it automatically gets, out. The open houses go out. You can also do the Facebook, command is great. I will do it through that. By the way, excellent question. I'll also do it through, sometimes I'll put them on nextdoor.com. That's another good one. And I always, by default, I use a photographer that when he does all the photos, he also puts together a website. I just buy the domain and then he does it all. It looks great. It looks very professional, but then I can let everybody know, look, you have your own domain. Like right now, my listing is 8316madison.com. You can go to that. You can see everything. You can see the photos. You can see the Madison 3D virtual. Everything is right there. Some of that too also makes the seller feel really good, like they really are being taken care of. When you do something like a Facebook ad, when you do something like a website, make sure you send that to a seller. Now, if it's a Facebook ad, take a screenshot and send it and say, hey, just want to let you know we're doing Facebook ads on your listing, and send it to them. That tells them what you're doing. That's like, wow, look at the value that my agent is doing. He's putting out ads for me. She's putting out ads. She's putting together this for me. That's the kind of stuff that you do to market the home. If you're involved, like for me too, I'm involved in the local chamber, the Whittier Chamber. whenever I do any social media, there's 2 hashtags that the chamber uses. So, and I found out what those hashtags are. So in the hashtags, I always put them in there. The 2 that they use is Whittier Strong and Whittier Chamber Member, I think. So those are the 2 that are in there. They search Instagram and Facebook for all of those hashtags. And when they do, they repost it onto their page. So that's also some of the marketing. And I let my sellers know that's some of what I'm doing as well. So it's that kind of like, those are some ways that I do that. Now, that's some of the stuff I do. You can ask somebody else in the office and they'll say, oh, they do this above, and I'll start taking notes. I'm like, oh crap, that's a great idea. That's how, not everybody's gonna have every single answer. We're not all a one-stop shop. So the cool thing is that we have a great office that's a great team that we all come together and help each other. So feel free to ask other people in the office what they do. Those are some of the things that I do to market, you know, the home. Also, over the years, there's 2 things I've done. One is there's a company, I think it's called Zip Your Flyer, and there's one other company too. And you can send a PDF to them, and they will send it out to all of the agents and it could be all of California, Southern California, and Zip Your Flyer. They only are that specific, and you pay something like $200, $300 for it, but it goes out to all those agents. Now, we all know a lot of times that doesn't make a big bit of difference, but I take that email and I forward it to my seller because again, it lets them know this is part of the marketing that I'm doing. You're showing your value. I just had it on the tip of my tongue. The other thing I do. That's one thing. Oh, and then over the years, I have slowly accumulated like people's real estate email addresses. And I have them divided up because I have a lot of people on my side of town, the Whittier side of town. Then I have a lot of people on the west side. And so I literally have created in my contacts list, both of those, all of those agents. And then if I have a listing that's local, I send it out to all of those people, you know, so that way they just get like, hey, this is what's going on. And again, I forward that to my seller to let them know, hey, I'm sending to every agent I have personally interacted with. They're all getting your listing that is going on too. So that's another way that I do that. I always inform my seller of all these things that I'm doing so they know, hey, this is what I'm doing to make this as successful as possible. Does that help, Anna?
Yes, absolutely. Do you also always put them on like Zillow and Realtor.com, or do you, or?
Yeah, that gets the, those get aggregated from the MLS. So yeah, that you know, goes out. But I always check them because sometimes we've discovered that what you put in doesn't always show up, or the photos don't show up. So the listing shows up, but not the photos. So always when you first do it, just double check. Now, Redfin is a brokerage, so usually they update in about 15 to 20 minutes, but Zillow and some of the other ones like Zillow, they're actually media outlets, so they're not brokerages, so they can update. It can take 4 hours before things update to their websites. So just let you know, don't think you're gonna be able to post it and like, well, Zillow is not showing the new photos. It may take a while for it to show up.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful.
Okay, great. And now, there's one thing that it'll talk in here about a pre-listing questionnaire. I'm going to let you guys go through that. That's part of the toolkit that kind of came with this. What that'll do is that'll help you to figure out, okay, get you, you know, all the questions. It does really help to go through specifically and write stuff down. How much do you appreciate, by the way, even when you go to a restaurant and somebody like you're giving them an order and they're not taking notes and you're very specific, like, yeah, I would like, you know, I'm a meat eater, sorry for, you know, but I am. So like, I would like a steak, you know, I would like it medium rare. And instead of the potatoes, can I have vegetables? And can I also have it dry? I don't want any butter. And, you know, I can be very specific, and they're not taking notes this whole time. And the whole time I'm nervous, like, are they going to get the order right? You know, are they going to get the order right? When they're taking notes on all this, I feel really good. Same thing. When we're doing this, you know, even, and people appreciate if you say, hey, I'm taking notes. So I just want to make sure I get down all the information because I don't want to leave a thing out. People appreciate that. So take notes, use the questionnaire, use all that kind of stuff to do that. Now, in Command, if you guys have gotten really well-versed in Command, there's the listing presentation. People will rave about it. We don't have time to go into it, especially because people who put it together, it can take a little while to put it together, you know, and so just to let you know. But it'll give you a great thing to work with. Let me say, and we've even talked about this at the 9 o'clock hour a number of times. Depending on who you're talking to, depends on how long and the style of your listing presentation. If somebody has a high D, you probably want to keep it short and sweet. If somebody has a high I, you may want to have a little bit more room in there to converse, you know, to have a good time. If somebody is very analytical, then you may want to have a lot of information in there that you can tell them, hey, if you want to go over some of this afterwards, please feel free, and they will. So you're going to have to want to gear that, and the listing presentation will let you do that. But when you've asked all these questions, by this time you've probably gotten to know who they are, and you know a little bit more of their style, and then you know how you're going to gear this. So everything isn't always the same one-stop shop where it's like, I give the same listing presentation to every single person. Because somebody who gets a 5-page listing presentation, and if they're a high D and you just have all the basic information in there, they may be happy. Yay, they didn't waste my time, bingo, this is what we're gonna do it at, let's go over it, I'm happy. Somebody who wants to know more information, they're like, 5 pages, what are you talking about? Why not give me more? So you may have to gear that according to them. That was the thing that I really missed the boat on when I first started. I'm like, because coming from graphic design, I'm going to design my own listing presentation and it's going to be the same one that I use for everybody. Yeah, not so much. You know, I learned way ahead of time, like that changes. And every time I do a listing presentation, I edit it again. And sometimes my listing presentation, because they've been a referral and I know them really well, most of the presentation is verbal, and then I have the contract and that's it. So if
how long the ideal listing presentation?
Again, it depends on who it's for. You know, it depends on what information they need. If they want to know every single detail, then you're going to have it pages long. You know, who knows, 25, 45 pages. They may want like all the graphs and all the properties and everything broken down, and they want the CMA, they want that comparative data in that listing presentation so they know exactly what's going on. Whereas somebody who is like, they may be somebody that they want it short and sweet, you know, they don't want to go into all those sort of details. Well, then you may have a 7 to 10 page listing presentation. You may have a summary of the comparative on there. So that way they can see all the properties on there, but that's all they want to do. They just want to see that you've done your research, there's properties on there, and that's it. So you're going to have to gauge it depending on who they are. And it never hurts to ask. You know, if you show up and you don't know, ask them, listen, I want to do the best job possible for you, but I also don't want to waste your time. Would you want me to come with something? It's going to be about 7 to 10 pages, and it's going to be maybe about 15 to 20 minutes to go over. Is that okay? Or do you want a lot more detail? And then we're going to be talking a lot longer, or we'll still be talking for that same amount of time, but then there'll be a lot more information for you to go through after I leave. Let them answer that, you know? And then if it's too much information, but they said they wanted it, it's on them. It's not on you. You know, you asked for it. So it never hurts to ask. Never hurts to ask.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. When you send, there's a pre-listing packet, and you know that's part of the listing presentation. What you're doing is the pre-list, and when you talk about it, it does two things. One, it sells who you are. It kind of pre-sells who you are. It says, I'm out of water. Oh. It pre-sells who you are. It's like, hey, this is who I am, and kind of get to know me. This is how I work, blah, blah, blah. All that kind of stuff. That does pre-sell you. Plus, you can let them know This also saves time. You know, when you fill out all this information, when we get together, this saves a lot of time. And I know your time is really valuable, and I want to value that time. And so this really helps. When you do that, people appreciate it. Because how many times have you been like stuck with somebody and you feel like, oh my God, they're wasting my time? You know, when you do something like this, it's like, no, this actually saves time. How many times have you guys gone to a doctor and they give you like all these questions? I'm like, you guys could have emailed me this PDF. I could have filled it out last night, you know, during a rerun of something, and then brought it in, and boom, we're just on the road and done. But no, you're sitting in that chair now for 20 minutes trying to fill out that questionnaire as fast as you can because you don't want to waste your time. Well, when you're doing some of the pre-listing stuff, you can let them know the same thing. You don't bring up the doctor scenario, but you're saying, hey, I just want to make sure I value your time. And this is part of making sure that we make our time together the most beneficial, the shortest amount of time, and the most productive. Okay, and then at this point, we're pretty much wrapping up. The thing that when you have your listing presentation, go through it, learn it. You know, when you talk, and this is something I need to start practicing what I preach, because my listing presentation, I haven't gone through it in a while, and I know some of it, I would literally look at a page and go like, oh yeah, I forgot I put that in there. So I need to do that as well. So I'm not like, oh, I've got everything together. But it's one of those things, the more you learn, the more you learn your own listing presentation, I should say, then the better you're able to present it, the more it's going to flow. The more too, you're going to be able to say on a page, because I have done this, oh, you know what? We've already talked about this. We can skip this page. If you want to go back in it and look at it, fine. But we've already talked about that. So let's just go ahead and skip, because you know your material so well. So people pick up on that too. Okay, so let's go to the ahas page, because I was supposed to, you know, wow, shocker, it's 12:54. I'm a little bit running over. What are things that like clicked with you today that were like, wow, that was pretty cool? Or, geez, Rob, you can talk an awful lot. Why don't we unmute everyone?
Okay. Hold on, let me figure out how to do that.
Well, I'll just say, I mean, because I've been through Ignite before, and like, I mean, this wasn't necessarily new information, but it just helps, I think, especially talking to you, Rob, because you're very authentic and you always bring yourself to the party. So it's kind of a reminder to, like, you know, don't try to mold to whoever your client is necessarily, but, you know, come together with them with who you are and who they are, which I think is something I always need a reminder of.
Cool, thanks. I appreciate that, I really do.
You made it easier to keep connecting with the client and get to know them, just like she said, know them very well, so you can present your listing presentation and have them engaged and tell them that you're there to serve them and to help them get what they want. So
that connection makes all the difference. You know, when you're connected with people, it makes all the difference in the world. Cool.
yeah.
Well, thank you for being patient with me and for the mailman with the dogs. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Let's all give Rob a big applause for teaching Ignite. It's not easy to do on Zoom, and especially on short notice. So many thanks to Rob. That was wonderful. I took a bunch of notes myself. Wonderful stuff. And any last questions before we sign off? And Rob?
And feel free, like I said, feel free to reach out to me or anybody else in the office.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're off for Ignite tomorrow. We're back on Thursday. And again, thanks one last time for Rob, and we'll end it there.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rob. That was wonderful. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.